One of the first mods that I ever did in a 30-day 30 build series was a cutter cube. The center layer of a cutter cube is just a fissure cube layer that is put between two regular 3x3 layers that are unmodified, and I wanted to do the inverse of that by making two fissure cube layers that would sandwich an unmodified layer together. This will be a pretty simple modification and something that I'm sure you're all familiar with by now, but it would give me a chance to look over the internals of the Guanlong, which was my new 3x3 of choice for all of my modifications. I'd never worked with this puzzle before, and I really just wanted to see how it would hold up with a simple fissure cube modification, but I wasn't going to do a fissure cube because I'd already done that before. And I'd also had this planned for a previous 30-day 30 build series, but I just never got around to doing it, and it's one of those modifications that I really should have done by now. I started as I usually do by tightening the puzzle up so that it couldn't turn, and then I misaligned the center layer by 45 degrees. After that was done, I took the puzzle over to my bandsaw and I cut the top and bottom layers off by using the middle layer as a guide. All I was going to do here was just a fissure cube modification, but I was going to miss out the center layer, so I just had to make sure I didn't cut it. Well, at least not that much. After I was finished cutting everything, this is what the puzzle looked like, and now it was time to disassemble everything so I could take all the pieces that needed to be modified inside so I could work on them further. I started by peeling all of the stickers off, which wasn't that hard since the Guanlong doesn't have the same kind of adhesive as the Chi sail, so I no longer had to remove any of the weird gooey sticker stuff. I scratched up the surface of each of the pieces on a sanding block, that way the epoxy sculpt would have something to hold on to. And then I got the epoxy sculpt out and I mixed enough of it up to fill and extend all of the pieces. Because I was limited for time, I had to do all of the filling and extending in one go, but normally I would do these in separate steps. After all the epoxy sculpt had hardened, I took the pieces over to my belt sander and I sanded all of them down so that I could reassemble everything. On the left is a piece that I had just sanded, and the one on the right I hadn't started sanding yet. After I'd finished sanding all of the pieces, I reassembled the puzzle, and this is what it looked like. Now that everything was reassembled, I took it back up to my belt sander and I started sanding it down into a cubic shape, which I guess you could call a cube. After I finished sanding everything and the puzzle was perfectly cubic, this is what it looked like, and you can see the corner pieces, which I suppose are edges here, have some small extensions on them, which I don't normally do for the fissure cube. A really weird thing about the fissure cube modification is it's not actually perfectly cubic, and in order to make it cubic, in the case of this puzzle here, I have to extend out a little further than normal, and that's why it looks a little different. Not just because the middle layer is completely unmodified. Now that all the shaping was done and the puzzle was disassembled, it was time for me to do my favorite part of the build, which was rounding over all of the sharp edges of each of the pieces individually. I started with a nail file and I knocked off all of the hard ridges on the outside parts of the puzzle pieces, and then I moved over to a sanding block to sand all of the flat faces that needed to be leveled up. I used some Scotch-Brite to smooth over all of the faces of each of the pieces and just to make everything look nice. It's hard to explain just how good of an effect Scotch-Brite has on the puzzle pieces, and I really find it gives the best finish overall, and it's also one of the reasons why I don't even bother painting my puzzles now. But after that was done and I'd finished rounding over all of the pieces, I cut all of the stickers out, and here it is, the puzzle is finally done. I'm actually really happy with how the stickers turned out on this puzzle. I think I cut them out very well, and I'm also happy with the particular shades that I used. It's nothing special, just a slightly darker green and a slightly lighter blue, and I think it looks really nice. And as almost always, this puzzle is a shapeshifter, so as I start scrambling it up here, you can see that pieces start sticking out here and there, and I'm sure this would be a pretty interesting solve if I had the time to solve it, but with these 30 Days 30 Builds episodes, I barely have enough time to stick these puzzles up. But anyways, I hope you guys like this puzzle, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time, which will be tomorrow, and many, many, many days after that.